Good morning. We'll start again this new session about the course of English language for the second level of psychology, the field of psychology, and in the Department of Psychology in University of Tlemcen in Algeria. We during the previous sessions, we dealt with the definition of psychology. Then we explained the approach, the psychological approach, which is named behaviorism. Then we dealt with psychoanalysis, which is another important approach in psychology. Then we clarified the third approach, which is Gestalt psychology, and now we'll deal with another approach or theory, if you want. And we here we mention the cognitive constructivism, and referring mainly to who is representing in one of the best figure who is representing this approach, referring to Jean Piaget. And I will share with you the PDF file, and this is the file that I shared with you in the platform of e-learning in which belongs to the University of Tlemcen. Jean Piaget is a well-known psychologist and an epistemologist, and a very well-known a scholar. We can say that is a great thinker, and he was born in 1896 and he died in 1980. He is from Switzerland, and he is universally known for his studies of the development of intelligence in children. And during his life, Jean Piaget created the International Center of Epistemology, of Genetic Epistemology, and he tried to compare between the knowledge, how the knowledge evolves during the childhood period, and how the knowledge evolved during the history of humanity. And he tried to compare between what is named by phylogenetic development, and here we are referring to the whole development during the history of humanity. And on the other hand, we at the same time, Piaget tried to compare what belongs to what is named by phylogenetic development, and here we are mentioning the development of knowledge during the history of humanity across multiple centuries. And Piaget, at the same time, he tried to compare this way of studying knowledge by also focusing on the ontogenetic development. And here, when we refer to the ontogenetic development, we are referring to how knowledge is evolving during the various stages of the development of the individual, and here during his the history of his life, and we compare the individual with the genre. I mean, the human genre, and this was the best and the well-known study that Piaget, which reflects the interest, the epistemological interest of Jean Piaget. Piaget studied the growth of intelligence, by which term he meant chiefly the capacities, structures, and notions that make scientific thought possible, as we said, and he was focusing mainly on studying the structure and the processes of the knowledge, how it was evolving during various steps of the history of the person and various steps of the history of humanities. And he tried to inverse the epistemological interest of scientists whom were before him, and these scientists, they were focusing only on the structure of this scientific idea, or the structure of a set of ideas, how and what they content, what their content, and Piaget tried to inverse this interest and tried to inverse the way by which the knowledge is problematized, and he tried, rather than studying the set of scientific ideas, what does mean these ideas, he asked the following question: how the scientific ideas evolves, and what are the process by which these ideas are evolving from a particular time to another time. And he tried to understand the evolution of various scientific ideas from both the phylogenetic outlook and the ontogenetic outlook. And this was the main goal of during the whole life of the scientist whom is Jean Piaget. And when we refer to the ontogenetic interest of Jean Piaget, he described the development as a consequence of stages or steps from birth through adolescence. And from Piaget, he mentioned that from birth, knowledge is evolving until the period of adolescence, and this evolution takes some time, and it crosses stages, and at the end, when the person reach the adolescence or the period of adolescence, the evolution of knowledge stops, and because the adolescence from the cognitive perspective is mature, and this is the most mature stage that the person reaches when the knowledge is evolving to this step. And what happened after this period of adolescence is just to make this step or stage of adolescence more complex and deeper. But qualitatively speaking, adolescence reflects from Piaget perspective the highest degree of the evolution of knowledge, and crossing various steps, and that is the approach of Piaget in briefly speaking. The stages appear at variable ages in different cultures and settings, but their order is invariable. And here we mentioned that there is a sensory motor stage, which reflect the sensory motor stage, which is from the birth to 2 years, or between 1 year and a half, 1 year and a half, and 2 years. And this is the first step of the development of knowledge. Then there is a pre-operational stage, and which is from 1 year and a half, 2 years, till the age of 7 of the childhood period of the person. Then there is the concrete and operational stage, which is from 7 to 11, and there is a formal operational stage, which is from 11 to 15 till 16. And this is the last stage, referring to the former operational stage, which is complexified across the adulthood period of the person, and till the person will die. And briefly speaking, we are referring here to 4 main stages of the development of knowledge from Piaget perspective. And we have also to mention that Piaget did not take into account the influence of culture and the society, and the influence of various symbols which are elaborated by the society. And from Piaget perspective, there is he was focusing mainly on the interaction between the subject and the object by the peer assimilation and accommodation. The assimilation reflects the influence of the subject toward the object, and the accommodation reflect the influence or the action of the object toward the subject. And this mutual inter-influence reflect the interaction, which is named from Piaget perspective the cognitive constructivism, because there is an inter-influence. And by his view, Piaget was criticizing idealism, which is referring to the only influence of the subject toward the object. And also Piaget was criticizing from another side behaviorism, because behaviorism is focusing on the only influence of the environment toward the subject, and Piaget, by referring to the cognitive constructivism, he was referring mainly to the idea of interaction, the interaction between the subject and the object, the peer assimilation accommodation, as we explained is, and this is the main idea of Piaget. And on the other hand, by referring to the only interaction and inter-influence between the subject and the object, Piaget dismissed and marginalized the influence of the society, the influence of culture during the process of the evolution of knowledge from the birth to adolescence. And also, on the other hand, he also rejected the idea of the influence of the other. The other has just a brief and marginal influence. He does not influence the interaction between the subject and the object. And the reason why we can say that the view of Piaget is universal, and he mentioned that the stages of the evolution of knowledge is universal, and there is just a few differences between the evolution of knowledge in this society and that society, and there is not a big differences. And the reason why he focuses mainly on the interaction between the subject and the object. And we have to know that, and we will see this later, that Piaget was criticized mainly by Vygotsky in psychology, because Vygotsky mentioned the influence of the other and the influence of culture, and which is named in Vygotsky theory by the psychological tools. And these tools are referring mainly to language, but not only. And because now language is a symbolic tool, Vygotsky criticized Piaget because this one is just focusing on the interaction between the subject and the object, without mentioning the importance of language. And this is the main critique which came from Vygotsky toward Piaget, and this reflects also the main difference between Piaget and Vygotsky. Piaget was at the beginning influenced by his education, because he performed the PhD on biology, and this is also another important point which differentiated between Piaget and Vygotsky, because Piaget was influenced mainly by literature and his study and his education, because he studied various languages and the law, and also literature and philosophy, etc. But Piaget was educated in the field of biology, and this is also another important point which differentiated between Piaget and Vygotsky. And the education of Piaget in biology and his PhD in biology influenced him to understand the development of knowledge, psychologically speaking, referring to the way by which the cognition, the cognition is evolving. And this is another point very important by which we can understand the approach of Piaget. In research, Piaget sketched a theory of organic, psychological, and social phenomena based on the idea of equilibrium between parts and wholes. And because when we refer to the interaction between the assimilation and accommodation between the subject and the object, the goal is to reach equilibrium, and the goal is to reach the evolution of knowledge from the internal cognition, and also from the external world in which the subject is evolving and living to. And the reason why the evolution, the construction of this of the interaction between the subject and the object, its goal consists to reach equilibrium, and from I mean internally and externally. We have also to mention that in the early 1920s, Piaget devised a clinical method that combined the use of items from intelligence tests, new problem-solving situations, and open-ended conversations with the school-age children. And here, when we mention the importance of clinical method that was created by Piaget, this great scholar, tried to perform this clinical method by using the peer question and answer. Piaget was asking this child or that one, and the child starts to answer to his various questions. And when the child is answering, Piaget reflect on the new answer, and he tried to make a new question from the new answer, and the process of combining between various questions and various answers form this scientific tool, which was named by Piaget a clinical method. In his first five books, first five books of Piaget, during 10 years from 1923 and 1932, Piaget studied the child language, reasoning, conception of the world, theories of causality and the moral judgment, and he found that children are at the first egocentric. They experience difficulty to take another person's point of view and attached to concrete appearances, but that they gradually move away from egocentrism and become capable of thinking abstractly and logically. And when we refer to the egocentric period, we have to mention here that, for example, if we take into account, for example, this I mean, when we refer to for example, here, if we refer here to this this view, for example, there is here a kind of an object, and this is the child who was tested, and here when the child during his first years, he was asked to express himself about what he is seeing. He will say that I'm seeing a big mountain, and when this child is asked by Piaget to say what what the other I mean, this is just not a real person, just an object by which the child can play. When Piaget asked these children how the other little children is seeing the mountain, he is not able to put himself into the mind of this little child, and he will say that he is seeing the other child is seeing like me the mountain like this, but he is not able to say that the little children is seeing another small mountain and another much bigger mountain than the first one, and the biggest mountain, which is the third mountain. Even that this child was at the first time he was seeing all the mountains, but when he sit down and he just saw this mountain, he will say about the standpoint when he is asked about the perception of this little child, he will say that he is seeing just the big mountain without and he is not putting himself here as this little child is seeing three mountains. And this is egocentrism. And after this period, the child is will be able to detached, will be able to overcome egocentrism, and he will be able to overcome egocentrism or egocentric stage or period, and he will be able to take into account another person's point of view. And this is very important. When the person is able to take into account another person's point of view, he will be able to overcome his egocentrism, and this is very important when we refer to the maturity of the process by which the cognition is evolving. And thank you for your attention.